So acromiodeltoid here, scapulodeltoid is just kind of the opposite right here. Then latissimus dorsi, so if you go back and find thoracic trapezius, which was up here, latissimus dorsi runs alongside it. So you can see the line here. Latissimus dorsi runs up and into the armpit. Okay, so if we move acromiodeltoid and scapulodeltoid sort of out of the way, you're getting the muscles that are directly, like, sitting right on the scapula. So there's supraspinatus, here's the scapular spine, and then there's infraspinatus. Put scapulodeltoid back and kind of lift the arm this way. You see this block of muscle that runs from like the caudal portion of the scapula up into the armpit. That's teres major. So here's it. This is it from this side, from this side. Rhomboid complex.
I know it well enough to record session.
So that's acromiodeltoid. Get that out here. Okay. So 3 different rhomboids you have to know. So this is rhomboideus thoracis, again, thoracic region, that's part of the body. That's what this sheet is, rhomboideus thoracis. Rhomboideus cervicis, again, going into the neck region up here. So this, and what I was originally calling splenius was this, but we're going to consider this part of rhomboideus cervicis. And then rhomboideus capitis is this small strand in between those two. So we're just, serratus ventralis, we're just knowing that collectively as these serrated muscles right here. The subscapular, so if you move teres major out of the way, subscapular is like supraspinatus and infraspinatus. It sits on the medial side of the scapula right there. Splenius, then what is actually the splenius, and it'll make more sense where that is once we talk about these muscles, but splenius sits directly on the neck here. Alright, the brachium. So tensor fasciae antebrachiae is this small strip right here. Then you have the triceps brachii complex. That's these large muscles on the caudal end of the brachium that wrap all the way around here. So this is triceps brachii lateral head, but we're just going to know it as part of the complex. Just don't confuse it with the brachial muscle. So the brachial muscle is underneath that. It's right here. And then the biceps brachii is this muscle here. Alright, so you will want to know these 3 muscles to orient yourself to the antebrachium. So again, brachial, clydobrachial, and biceps. See, just find where they insert at the antebrachium, and then you can orient around these to get your flexors and extensors. So starting here where the brachial muscle comes in, you have extensor carpi radialis, and then we're just kind of progressing around. So flexor digitorum superficialis here. You should have to be able to find the dividing lines. Then flexor digitorum lateralis will be the most outward or lateral on the lateral side of the arm here. And then extensor carpi ulnaris, you just need to look at the elbow, which muscles are running up and into the elbow, because the ulna is part of, or the elbow is part of the ulna. So flexor carpi ulnaris, and then this is a flexor muscle. So turn it back around, find the bicep. The short muscle is pronator teres. Then you have flexor carpi radialis. You move down to flexor digitorum profundus here, flexor digitorum superficialis here, and then flexor carpi ulnaris. Again, ulna is where the olecranon process of the ulna is the elbow, so just look for that there for flexor carpi ulnaris. And we dropped extensor indicis. pelvic appendicular muscles. So this is tensor fasciae latae, the most cranial one. You have the gluteus superficialis, is this kind of arc of muscle here. It's been bisected, but it would cover this whole area. And then gluteus medius is partially underneath that. This is caudofemoral. And this triangular block of muscle is biceps femoris. And then you can see semitendinosus here, partially. And there's the dividing line for semimembranosus, but you'll get a better view of those muscles in just a minute. So, moving this out of the way, these out of the way, you have gluteus, so find your femur, gluteus profundus is here, and that separates from piriformis, which is here. And then you have your gemellus muscle. So there is this kind of block of muscle here, and these are 3 different muscles. So gemellus cranialis is this small one right here. Gemellus caudalis is down here by the ischium, so that separates out right here. Obturator internus is in between those 2. And then looking just more medial to the gemellus muscles, you have the coccygeus muscles. It's these band of muscles, not including the piriformis back in here. Alright, quadratus femoris is this chunk right here, just beneath gemellus muscles. And then you have adductor femoris below that. This is vastus lateralis, and I believe this is part of vastus medialis, or that may be vastus intermedius, which isn't on the list, so don't worry about it. You'll see vastus medialis in a moment. And then here's a better look at semitendinosus and semimembranosus. So then this sheet is gracilis, and much like with the cervical trapezius and omotransversalis running together, gracilis and sartorius run together. Get that out of the way. So tensor fasciae latae again, vastus medialis. Much of this block of muscle is semimembranosus. And then you have this more or less triangular block of muscle, which is adductor femoris. The next 2, or the last 2, because we dropped iliopsoas, is pectineus and rectus femoris. They kind of converge with the external obliques down here, so just run and find where external obliques come in and get adductor femoris out of the way, and calling this really small one right here pectineus, and then here's the femur, I think. Well, there's a bone there. Pectineus is on this side, and then rectus femoris is this more or less triangular block near vastus medialis right here. Shank. Okay. So the shank, you have flexor digitorum superficialis, kind of runs from the knee and along the backside of the gastrocnemius muscle, which is similar to the tricep muscle. There's multiple heads to it, but you just have to know it as gastrocnemius. So here's one of those heads, and you can also see gastrocnemius from this view. So it's a really large muscle. Soleus, just lift up gastrocnemius, and there's soleus. Tibialis cranialis is this large muscle here. Just kind of lift it up, and you'll see extensor digitorum longus is underneath it. Popliteus is this kind of diagonally oriented muscle up here on the inside near the knee. It separates from this other muscle,
So here's another view of the splenius.
yeah, okay, popliteus here.
Down across.
It's a little confusing since we're using a cat diagram, so this does not look like the cat diagram, and this is how we're going to do this. I'm going to say this is flexor digitorum longus, right here, and flexor hallucis, we're going to call any of the muscle that's under that and near popliteus. We'll call any of this flexor hallucis. Okay, back to the hypaxial trunk. You'll start to see ribs kind of showing themselves. So this is serratus dorsalis and runs up and under serratus ventralis. Scalenus. So we're looking for muscles that we're coming from the neck, and then the straps, different straps of scalenus kind of fan out. So that's what this is. That's scalenus. Rectus abdominis, we already identified down here, but it runs up and kind of under serratus ventralis and ends here. So that's rectus abdominis, and then you can find rectus thoracis, which is at the other end of that connection. Intercostals, you don't have to know external or internal intercostals, just that look at the ribs, muscles in between adjacent ribs are intercostal muscles. Epaxial trunk. So we're mostly just going to regionalize this stuff because it's really hard to find the dividing lines. But the first thing you can do, find the spinous processes and the muscle attached to those. Right here is multifidi, so we're looking at the caudal half of the animal. Multifidi muscles, they kind of pinch off and broaden back out again to the spinalis muscles, so the cranial half of the animal. Erector spinae muscles, or anything back here that doesn't belong to the pelvic appendicular region or the multifidi, so this. And that's basically the caudal half of the animal will be erector spinae, which then in the cranial end turns into longissimus dorsi. So longissimus dorsi will run up into the neck region, and again, since we're regionalizing because it's kind of hard to differentiate this stuff, longissimus capitis, I would say, starts probably right around where you find rhomboideus capitis and runs up into the neck. And then semispinalis, also kind of weird. So if you can find splenius, which we're calling this muscle on the neck here, find spinalis and see where spinalis basically runs into this area. Anything back behind splenius, we'll just say spinalis, semispinalis is up in here. Okay. Then the neck. So you've got the biggest bulbous muscle of the jaw here is the masseter. Digastric are these two straps that kind of converge at this point. Beneath that is the mylohyoid, is a sheet of muscle. And then if you come up to where digastric converges and mylohyoid reaches up here, I think I've kind of poked mine too hard, but there's a dividing line here, and the genioglossus, I'm sorry, no, we dropped genioglossus. Geniohyoid is right up in this notch. So coming back, you have sternomastoid that we already talked about. So kind of right underneath that is what looked like a sheet during dissection, but it's really two different straps. The sternohyoid sits on top of like the trachea and those kinds of things. So you can cut that back, find the trachea, and there's two muscles that run along the lateral sides of that. So the dividing line is here. The more cranial muscle is the thyrohyoid. And then dividing line here, and then this muscle here would be the sternothyroid. Then the other thing you want to be able to find, if you go back to sternohyoid and see where it connects to this bone, so the greater horn of the hyoid, so that's the connection on the caudal side. If you go to the cranial side, it is the hypoglossus, so kind of under the digastric, there's muscle right there. Okay, and then if you just kind of follow the line of the greater horn, this muscle is the styloglossus. And we drop genioglossus. That's everything.